Welcome to this week's episode. It is my honor to be your host, Dr. Katie Williams, with Dr. Williams LLC and the Dr. Williams podcast. If you want to keep this show up and running, please take a moment to follow the show, leave a rating and a review, and share it with somebody that you think would enjoy listening. This show is about highlighting what I consider to be the most valuable form of communication. And it's something we all have, whether we're tapped into it or not. That is, intuition. Let's jump right in and see how today's guest utilizes their unique ability to tap into their intuition and how they use it to serve others. Make sure to listen to the end to find out how you can work with today's guest. I'm here today with Sarah Ty, and her business is Journey Through Tarot. So today she's going to be doing an intuitive tarot reading for me and allowing all of you guys to witness that and see what it's like. Sarah, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm really happy to have you here. Can you introduce yourself to the audience and give them an idea of what it is you do, how long you've been doing it, all the good things about your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I am super excited to be here. And I've been reading tarot for about 18 years, and it started more as a hobby, something I did back in high school through present. But about 2.5 years ago, about 3 years ago, I started my spiritual awakening and my spiritual journey, which led me to being called into tarot as a professional. And I've been doing it now for about 2.5 years with my business Journey Through Tarot. It's not to be confused with fortune telling. I don't do a lot of predictive readings. A lot of what I do is more about the now and how to help people get through blocks, things in anything that could be holding them back, anything they need to know about getting where they want to be. And I like to say I connect them with their higher self, with spirit, and I'm just like the middleman. I'm just the one channeling the messages to them, and it's what they need to hear in this moment about whatever it is they're asking about.
When people come to you, do they usually come with some kind of direction, like they have a question or something they want to focus on?
Yes. Most of the time, they already have a question or area in their life that they want to focus on and dive into and get more information and clarity on. The only exception is I also do events. So at events, 9 times out of 10, no one has a question. And so then the redirection is, all right, what does your higher self want you to know? And either way, it's really potent. But either you focus on something or you just get the guidance you need right now without any focus.
Okay. Long time ago, years ago, I happened to go into a store that had somebody reading tarot, and my girlfriend and I were like, let's do this. And it was on a whim. And that was kind of my approach. He said, do you have a question or anything? And I was like, no, not really. And so he said, okay, let's just see what the cards bring up for you. And the card, I wish I could remember which card it was, but he was like, oh, you need to be thinking big. That was the message to me. Think big, like the world is your oyster kind of thing. And it really resonated with me. And it was like, heartfelt kind of like, wow, that's what my higher being wanted me to know. So that was cool. Actually, coming into this with you, I didn't think that I had a question. And then something just happened before I came in on the call with you. So I do have some focus today.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So what is the focus that you want to, do you want to phrase the question a certain way? What is it that you wanted to check?
Can I kind of just tell you what happened? Because I don't know if I have a question, maybe a question will form as I'm telling you.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I find myself in a little bit of a conflict with somebody who's more than an acquaintance, but not somebody I'm super close with. And conflict is kind of a big thing for me because I believe that we all have the ability to resolve conflict within ourselves without having to actually work with the person to resolve anything. Mm-hmm. So I feel like this is happening to me so I can kind of practice my doctrine, so to speak, and really try to do that. But I'm noticing that I'm still having a kind of nervous system reaction to it where, hello, kitty. Nothing like a little bit of cat butt.
He's wanting to be on the show, apparently.
Yeah. So I'm noticing that I'm having a nervous system kind of reaction. I'm kind of feeling like I'm kind of cold. I'm kind of like clammy, you know, how I get when I care what other people think. And
Mm.
I don't want to feel that way anymore. I want to drop that caring of how others think and really feel strong in my own knowing. But I think that's
Mhm.
where this is coming from. I think that's, in a nutshell, why this is happening. So anyway, I don't know. I don't really have a question. I guess I just want to know what my inner being would tell me how to move past moments like this. What should I do in conflict to kind of resolve it on my own?
I love that question. Yeah, that's perfect. I was going to recommend that, or I wasn't sure if you wanted to see if you should respond, to this person. But I think that the question you asked is perfect because that's going to help you understand what to do in situations like this.
Great. Awesome.
So, love that. What's funny is he's shy in real life. Like, he'll hide when people come over, but he has a voice and he wants to be heard.
Hey, maybe he's meant to be on radio and he's letting you know this is a calling for me in this life.
I have been wanting to reach out to a pet psychic just to, like, kind of hear out what my, kitties want, and maybe that's something I'll find out.
Hey, I have a contact for you if you really want to do that.
Yes, absolutely. I would
Yeah.
love to get the information.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to do my higher self spread, which is 7 cards. And so we're going to go over the cards are theme, then there's past, present, future placements, and then higher self messages overall. So starting with your theme card. Oh, I love this. So your theme is the 2 of Cups. So everything that's going to come through is going to be around your question, how do I move past conflict? And so that's going to be the focus point and where all these are going to attach to. The theme, the starting point, the 2 of Cups, is saying that there's some shadow work you got to do around this. Are you familiar with the term shadow work?
I please explain it. I have heard it before. I don't understand it in depth.
Okay. So it's in a lot of ways it's dealing with past traumas, and it's going backwards and seeing the areas and parts of us that we abandoned or misplaced or just didn't want to deal with because we were taught that that part of us was unlovable. We were taught that those parts of us were the ones that we didn't want to be associated with. So we just threw it in our shadow and said, nope, you're not mine anymore, even though it's still a big part of you. And so a lot of shadow work is learning how to integrate those parts of you. So for instance, where I would say with this, where in your childhood and your past did the conflict fear come up for you, and why did it come up for you, and what could you have thrown in your shadow that you were like, oh no, I've learned that if I do this it backfires on me and I shouldn't be doing this, even though it
Okay.
was really a truth. It was just that's what you perceived as your child self, so you abandoned that piece of you. So usually shadow work is all about integration. It's integrating the parts of you that you abandoned with the parts of you that you acknowledge, and you bring it together because you're a whole person. We just don't always like to acknowledge parts of us, and when we bring and integrate, that's when we remind ourselves that we're already lovable as we are, that we don't have to get like outside validation and all of that. It's we are already whole beings, and all of us is lovable, not just pieces of us. So that's kind of the starting point. Is there's some shadow work around conflict, around where
Okay.
did that.
Let me offer a little bit of insight there since you brought all that up. What came to me when you were talking about it is when I was 4, my parents got divorced, and there was a lot of conflict around that. And the years that followed, there was a lot of conflict between my parents. So intuitively, I'm feeling like that's where it started in this lifetime.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And what did you do to handle that conflict? And were there parts of you that maybe you spoke up when you were younger and then you got some kind of a backlash? So you abandoned that piece of you because you realized, oh no, if I do this, then it's not lovable. So I have to get rid of this.
Yeah. There
So,
was a lot of that. I mean, when your parents are in conflict and you try to stick up for the other one, they don't necessarily like that so much, right? Because they're feeling differently. And there was a lot of that. Yeah.
yeah, so that's our starting point with your conflict is an invitation to go back and get curious and really figure out, okay, so if that's the starting point, what happened back then? How can you go back and reconnect with that inner child and let that piece of you know that, hey, you're okay, you're safe, you're lovable, you can speak your mind, you're okay. So that's our theme, and that's our starting point. Um, Looking at our recent past, we have the Magician reversed. So this one usually speaks to some kind of like a creative block around. So I don't know what the conflict is that you just recently. I feel like this is speaking more to whatever this conflict is. I feel like it's somehow impeding on you on a creative level. So I don't know if this is someone that you um, are working with in a creative manner. But the Magician is typically, when it's upright, it says that you have all the resources, you have all the means, you have all the ingredients to create what you want. When there's a block, which is when it's reversed, it's speaking to the fact that you have all the ingredients, you just don't feel like you have the means to make it happen. You don't have the means to bring it all together. And so I feel like whatever this conflict is, it had to do with some kind of a maybe content or creativity or something that you feel like now you don't know if you can move forward in some capacity.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to speak to that a little bit too, so everyone that's listening kind of knows what my impression is. What
mhm,
happened was this person, I don't work with them. It's somebody I know personally, but they had the means to make something happen that meant something to me. And I jumped on it. And it was the wrong thing for me to do. I jumped on the opportunity to make something happen that I wanted to happen without giving too much details. I want to protect the person. But
mhm.
it was the wrong approach for me to make. And what I hear you saying is I had all the resources to do this on my own. That probably would have been a better way to go. I probably wouldn't have had a conflict if I had gone that route.
Yeah, very, very well. Because that could definitely be, because there's definitely like you had it, but you there was some kind of a block, which was the conflict. So yeah, which is interesting because that leads us into the present card, which is the wheel. Okay, so the wheel is all about reminding you that everything happens for you, not to you. So while that could be true, that maybe you could have done it all by yourself without needing this other person, there's a lesson here for you. So the wheels are a reminder that even when things happen, you're like, oh, why did that happen? You have two choices. You can either get stuck in the victim mentality of like, oh, this always happens to me and why me? And you get into that mode, or you can kind of take a step back and say, well, that really was not great. I didn't enjoy that at all. But what was the lesson? What can I take from this? What was I supposed to learn from this? And then you kind of take the power back and you're able to really not, well, first of all, not feel powerless to the situation, but also understand that it was meant to happen, that there was something
Mm,
for, and it's not just something that happened to you that was inconvenient. There was actually something for you, which I think, coming back to that theme card, I feel like this conflict was meant to happen because it's like tapping you on the shoulder, like, hey, there's a reason why this happened, so you can go back and look at where it started and move forward differently with the next person.
oh, wow.
Work.
That's awesome. It's allowing me to accept, actually, I feel better already. Like just hearing that, I feel much calmer. I feel more centered now. It's a different shift, it's a different perspective to look at it in that way and to know that this is something that I wanted to happen. It wouldn't have happened if I didn't actually align with it in some way. And
Yes.
so now I'm feeling like grateful in a way, appreciating that it has happened and brought it out into the light, out of the shadows.
Yes, yes, exactly. And that's what shadow work is too. It's shining the lights on the parts of us that we need to put more light and love into. If you think about when you shine light on something, the shadow gets bigger, right? And it's just all it's doing is showing you the areas that need more of the light and more of the love. So yeah, absolutely. The next two cards, I love this. I think this is going to be really helpful, especially with moving into this invitation of going backwards and dealing with some of this trauma. Um, we have the near future, which is the Ten of Wands, and we also have the higher self message to the near future, which is the Eight of Pentacles reversed. So what this is saying is that right now, moving now, and I feel like if this is like present moving into the near future, you have a lot on your plate. You have a lot of responsibilities. You have a lot of things that you're carrying and taking on, um, which is not giving you space to heal what needs to be healed. It's kind of like you're overburdening yourself. You're carrying a little bit too much. And if someone were to come to you with something else, you might even take that on too.
Mm.
That like checking in with yourself to see, can you really do it? Can you really take more on? So the 10 of wands, and it's upright, which is good. There's no resistance around it. It's really saying that there's an invitation to look at everything you're carrying and figure out what really needs to continue. Some of it you can set down. Some of it you can maybe delegate, so it's not all on you, but make space to do this healing work. Because unless you make space, it's not going anywhere. It's just going to be showing up in different ways to say, hey, I need your attention. um, and so it's what I find kind of interesting for the higher self message is the Eight of Pentacles reversed. This one is an apprentice card. This one is you need to learn something new and be a student. And whenever it's reversed, it always speaks to impatience and a feeling of, but I want to be an expert already. I want to. So I feel like what higher self was really like, coming back to that theme, you're really being invited to make space to do this healing, but you have to clear up the space to do so. Because right now you just have so much going on that you don't even have the capacity to go down that lane and go that direction. And not only that, but you already kind of want to be over it. You kind of, you basically want to be the expert who's already healed that part of you. You know, there could be a part of you that's like, oh, well, I talked about it on the podcast and I acknowledged it, so that's enough. And that's not always enough. Sometimes acknowledge
Gotcha.
enough. Sometimes it's you really have to go back and, you know, maybe do a meditative state where you connect with that part of you, and maybe you're the adult in the situation now where you honor that part of you. There's different ways you can do it, journaling, but it's really saying that you need to be a student here. You need to be an apprentice. You need to understand that when you're healing this, it's like climbing a ladder, and each rung is its own phase, and each rung you learn a new tool, and each tool is going to take you forward into the future. When you deal with conflict later on, you're going to have a new tool that you didn't have before, but you don't want to like skip rungs. You have to kind of do the steps.
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
so
Yeah,
yeah.
this is speaking to something else. For a while now, I have been collecting information about conflict resolution without confrontation, and I feel like maybe there's a book in there. There's something creative that I'm going to make that has to do with conflict, and so I hear that. I hear that saying, these are the things that are happening to give you the information so that you can learn and become an expert, but you have to actually be the student in order to talk about it.
Right, because you can read case study after case study, but there's nothing that beats personal experience, because
Absolutely.
now you, and you're not just speaking from a clinical space, you're speaking from a personal, I lived through it space. It's very, very different.
Wow, this is very helpful.
So there are two more cards that we're going to cover, and I love these are just so profound. This is like my favorite kind of reading, where everything just like I can see all the string. I like, so for me, one of my gifts is it's almost like I could see like the string that takes the story, and I'm able to kind of see how it all ties together. And with yours, it's so like it's very visible. So I'm just like, oh, I love this. So the first one is so this is like higher self message, the roadmap in the middle. This is the Seven of Wands reversed. So this one's saying that you are still very triggered when conflict comes up. The Seven of Wands speaks to kind of getting defensive, feeling like reactive when people are kind of poking at you, whether it's intentional or not. And so the Seven of Wands, it's so funny because it's very similar. It touches on that shadow work. It says that you need to learn how to respond versus react. And the first thing you need to learn how to do is get in touch with yourself. So when you feel triggered, what is happening? Are you feeling something from your past that you need to go heal, that really has nothing to do with this person? They're just bringing it out of you. Or do you have to set some boundaries because, oh no, this person is definitely overstepping a little bit, you know? But you have to get in touch with yourself to know how to respond and how to react. So this one I feel like is saying that this, and what's good here with it being reversed, it is saying that there is some awareness around it. So you are, this isn't new. This idea of responding versus reacting, it's not a new thing for you. It's something I think you're already working on.
Mm-hmm.
But higher self is letting you know that it's going to keep happening until, and I mean, I think conflict and dealing with this is probably going to always be there, but it's going to get easier the better you get at checking in with yourself when it comes up, when you feel it in your body, when you feel the reaction coming. Take like 5 minutes to go sit with yourself and be like, okay, what is happening? Is this old stuff coming up, and this person's just mirroring it to me? Or is it something that I have to take care and deal with now? But you have to get in touch with yourself to know. And the card next to it, sorry, my cat decided to lay right on top of these cards. card that came up is the devil reversed. And so this one, I love this. This is letting you know that you're at a crossroads.
Would you like a solo hindsight episode related to this specific reading? If you do, send me an email at hello@drwilliamspodcast.com, and all you have to put in the email is hindsight and the kind of reading or my guest's name, and I'll know which one you're interested in. As I produced the Intuitive Wonderland, time went on before I actually launched it. So I have a unique perspective on each of these readings and how they played out in time. Most of these readings were recorded a year ago in the past. So I can offer my insight into the information that was provided to me and how the information has played out in time in my life. If this is something you're interested in, I'm happy to share that with you. Please send me an email and let me know. All right, let's get back to the reading.
You can choose to do the thing that's comfortable, which is whatever it is that doesn't involve growth, whatever it is that, is familiar and you're kind of just doing the same pattern over and over, or doing the thing that's uncomfortable. And so I feel like this is speaking to that shadow work. It's really saying that you can keep putting it off and it's comfortable and familiar when you do that. At least you know what to expect. You're not going backwards to something that, well, maybe familiar. You don't really know it's all back there. You don't know what's going to come up. And that's kind of scary to the human mind. We don't want to deal with trauma. That's why we ignore it for so long. So you can continue to kind of push the work away and not do it. And in a sense, stay in your little comfortable bubble. Or you can do the thing that's uncomfortable, that is not going to be very easy to go back there and look at and feel those feelings and acknowledge those feelings, but it's going to take you to another level and take you to growth. And so with it being reversed, it's saying that you already kind of know you're teetering between, well, it's so much easier to just not acknowledge it versus, okay, it's time. I got to go do it. I don't want to, but I got to. And it's, yeah, your higher self is really saying you're at this crossroads, and ultimately it's all coming back to making the space for that healing work, which is the theme that came up.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing. I'm just really impressed right now because, I mean, you just shuffled a couple times and you brought out some cards and it pretty much it laid it all out, and a lot of parts that are in my mind. I was thinking those things, and even before coming on this call with you, I was thinking this is happening because I want to know more about this, and I do want to embrace it. And I don't know, you saying it just validates it and allows me to lean into it a little bit more, which is really helpful.
I love that you said that. Most people go into card readings expecting something super mysterious, and 9 times out of 10 it shows up as validation and confirmation.
Yeah.
And it's even more confirming when they are speaking to someone who could not possibly know what they were going through, but the cards come up and lay it out for them. So it's even more confirming because it's you're able to trust more that there's something a little bit bigger going on, right? There's something bigger than you that's here guiding you.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Well, okay, so that helps me a lot on that topic. Can we do a general one now? Just one to see what comes out, just so that we have the contrast of one that's specific and one that's general.
okay. Well, we could do another higher self spread.
Okay. Sounds good.
So what we'll do, so this will just be what you need to know, and it will be really interesting because some of it might tie into what just came through, and some of it might be completely off. Some other thing that you need to hear. Um, but that will be the focus: is what else do you need to know in general. Okay, I'm going to pull a clarification card on one of the cards, and I'll go over that in a second too. Sometimes I'll pull a card and I'm like, I want a little more information.
So it's communicating a lot with you. I mean, the cards and you have a kind of communication.
Yeah, in a way, it's like, in a lot of ways, I'll glance at a reading and I don't even really know what's going to come up until I start, because I like to remove my I like to call it my ego, my judgment, my mind, and I just like go over the meanings of the cards and then whatever else comes through with it, because it's not always just the cards and the meanings. There's always something else, and then there's always the tie-ins. So yeah, in that respect, they do. I'm able to kind of see where they correlate and combine. But sometimes I'll glance like this one. I'm like, I want to get more information. I just want something a little more. Like,
Okay.
explain it to me, you know?
That's fair.
So your theme for this one is the Page of Pentacles reversed. So I like to call the Page of Pentacles my purpose card. Whenever this one comes up, I know you're either connected with your purpose, but just not pursuing it, or it's orbiting you and it wants to find you and you just haven't made that connection yet. So with it being reversed, it's like letting you know, higher self is like tapping you on the shoulder again and saying your purpose is here. Your purpose is either you either know what it is and you're not putting that energy into it, or it's something that you want to find, but it hasn't quite made that connection yet, but it wants to connect with you. And so the way that I like to describe purpose is it's something that lights you up and you could do it all the time. It just fires you up. You're interested, you're intrigued, you can always just like lean on it, and it gives back to the world in some way. So like for instance, podcasting could be a form of purpose, just as an example. Or it could be a number of different things, but that's usually a combination of I love this thing, I could do it all the time, and the world could take something from it. um, and so the card that came up with it is the Hierophant reverse. So I love this. So I feel like maybe you're kind of in this transitional period in your life where you're kind of like, you thought you know what your purpose was, or you had like a part of it, but now you're like, I don't know that if that was it. Because the Hierophant is all about deconditioning and deprogramming. So you probably were pursuing something that you thought was the right option, that like other people were going to be like, yes, that's what you should be doing, and I approve, and all this stuff. And when the Hierophant comes up, it's like the invitation is you start peeling back layers of what was told to you, what was taught to you, what you had to like pick up and carry from childhood. Then now you're looking back going, I don't want to carry that anymore. That doesn't even feel like me. Those beliefs, those values. And so it's like you're starting to shed those beliefs. And the more you shed those beliefs, the more you're going to be in touch with your own sovereignty and your own belief system and value system that fits you, and learning how to listen to that inner compass versus the outer one trying to tell you where to go. So I feel like what's going on here is your higher self is saying that your purpose is very much in your life. You just haven't like pinpointed it yet. And what's going to help you really figure that out is this card right here, the Hierophant. It's the work that you're doing around the deconditioning and the deprogramming. And the more you do that, the more you're going to find the specific. I feel like it's a niche. I feel like you kind of already have the umbrella of what you're looking for, but I feel like there's the niche in the umbrella that you haven't. That's what you're looking for, and I feel like the
Yep.
more you deep gonna present to you.
Yeah, that feels right to me.
So looking at your recent past, I have the three. Yeah, so a lot of the cards that are coming up here, I do feel this is more purpose career oriented, but definitely feel free to share if there's anything else that comes through for you. But I do kind of feel like that's where it's going. So the Three of Pentacles reversed. This is in your recent past. This one is saying that you did struggle a little bit with comparison, where you're kind of looking at what other people were doing versus what you were doing, and kind of like, well, they're showing up with all these things, and I'm just showing up with this, and is this good enough? And and not even able to focus on what you're really good at, because you were kind of trying to almost be what other people were doing too with your skill sets. You're trying to add these other skill sets that weren't really you, but you were trying to keep up. I feel like maybe keep up with the Jones kind of thing. So the invitation around the Three of Pentacles is, how can I focus on just what I know I'm good at?
Mm.
Put me there. And then what's really cool is the more you focus on your own energy, the less you're worried about everyone else. I'd like to say you're keeping your eyes on your own paper, you're staying in your own lane. And what happens is then you're able to create a really cool collaboration where you're showing up as your best self, doing what you do best. They show up as their best self, doing what they do best. And then if you look at this picture, you create this really cool braid, right? That's the
Oh.
collaborative effect, is you're able to come together because you're not comparing, you're not, feeling less than on either side. It's just, you do this really well, I do this really well. Now let's come together and make it happen. And so I feel like in your recent past, that's kind of where you're coming from, where you went from this space of trying to be what everyone else wanted. And then now that the theme is showing that you're questioning it, you're kind of moving away from that idea and focusing more on, well, what do I do? What do I bring to the table? What is the thing that really brings me joy? And less worried about what everyone else is telling you should be doing, or how you feel you should be showing up.
Yep, I'll speak to that one. I mean, most people that are in higher education for most of their life end up using it. And yet here I am doing a podcast instead of using my doctorate in psychology. So that I think that that's what it's talking about. There was a lot of pressure for me to do what I learned And yet it doesn't feel like that's what it's going to be for me. It's different. And I am kind of wading through and figuring out what that is and trying a little of this and trying a little of that. And I've been doing a lot of collaborating with people and meeting my people, my tribe of people. And all of that speaks to that. And I have to say also that when I was like, I just want to know what comes out, let's do a general one, I knew it was going to be career focused, because usually when I do a reading and I don't specify something, that's where it goes. So that's definitely where my path is very focused in my life.
I love that. So that's, if you don't mind, I want to speak to that a little bit. So people ask me like, so are the cards magic? Is it the cards themselves? And I always say, no, it's the intention. And this was a perfect example. You didn't even speak to me what your intention was. You just showed up in the intention you had, and I showed up in the intention of being that channel for you, and that's what came through.
Yeah.
So it's about intention, and it doesn't even matter if you speak to me in person or if I do email readings too, or you just send a question through an email. It doesn't matter. It's the intention. So I love that.
That's
Thank you for
beautiful.
sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So presently we have the Eight of Wands reversed. So this is saying that right now things are kind of slowing down, like in your career a little bit. Like it kind of feels like almost like you're walking through mud. Like you want to speed things up, but it kind of feels like your shoes are really heavy and you're like, why am I going so slow? Lean into that slower energy right now. It's actually slowing down on purpose, I think, because of this right here. It's giving you the space to figure out, okay, what is my niche and what is my purpose? I know it's around here somewhere. I can feel it. And so this is normally when it's upright, the Eight of Wands is like fast moving energy. It can feel a little like, oh my gosh, why is everything happening so quickly? It's daunting. But when it's reversed, it's like, no, it's slowing down. And I really think it's slowing down to give you that space to figure out what's, because this is really trying to connect with you. So I feel like it's just like lean into the stillness. It's okay, especially when we're in like society that's like, oh, you gotta go quickly and you gotta climb up the ladder. It's, you almost feel like this push to go quick and get that success thing going. And a higher self is like, it's okay, it's okay, lean into the slowness right now. It's utilize it. It's slow on purpose.
That's also spot on, because that's exactly how it's been. My youngest started kindergarten in the fall in September, and since then I have been resting. And I have so many episodes of the podcast already recorded that I haven't been pressuring myself to do more. I'm just allowing myself the self care space and really focusing on meditation and, that kind of thing that just feels good to me. So you got it.
Yeah,
It's exactly how it's been.
that's awesome. Yeah, and utilize that, because when this one shows up, it's telling me eventually tides are going to turn and it's going to pick back up again. But enjoy it while it's here, while you have
Okay.
that space.
Yeah.
So moving into the near future, we have the wheel again. So this one, just to remind you, this one is all about remembering that things happen for you, not to you. So just keep that in mind as you're unpeeling these layers and connecting with your purpose and things like that. Anything that happens is happening for you. So even if you hit some bumps along the road, remember to take that step back and ask, okay, why is this happening? What's the lesson here? What can I take from this? Because it's just going to speed things up for you. If you get in that victim mentality, it always slows us down because it takes us a while to go through those feelings of victimhood, versus if you're able to be a little quicker about it and be like, oh, this was not cool, but what can I learn from this?
Mm-hmm.
And it just power back in your, it puts you back in the driver's seat and allows you to make a decision to move forward versus getting caught in the, oh, this is unfair feeling. So it's just kind of reminding you of that as you move forward, just to look for the lessons and don't get caught up in that victim
I love that
energy.
card. That card might be my favorite card so far.
Yeah, it's one of mine too. In fact, I did a video on my Instagram about that one because it's just such a profound message. I really, part of why I love what I do is putting the empowerment back in the
Mm-hmm.
people I read for, letting them know that, hey, even when it feels like it's completely out of your control, there are still things you can do. You're
Yeah.
not powerless.
Absolutely. It's a great message.
So moving into that's the near future. So the higher self message to the near future is the King of Pentacles, which I love this. The King of Pentacles is very financially secure. He's very grounded, very rooted, um, and feels very safe. So what this telling me is that the more you, basically, when you find that purpose, when you connect with it, it's going to lead you to this space where you're going to be really, how do I explain it? So the best, another way to explain the King of Pentacles, it's like you're getting compensated for doing what you already love to do, because it's like you're so secure and rooted that now you're able to, if you look behind them, there's like all these like apple trees and all this. You're ready to harvest what you've already learned and give back. You're able to take your purpose and really give it back to the world. And so it's that two for thing where you're, on one hand, you're getting compensated for what you love, but you're also giving something so beautiful back to the world, that it's that beautiful transaction between you and the world. So that's
Wow.
kind of where you're.
That's a cool card too. I'm happy to get that one as well.
Well, you're gonna like these last two, I think, as
Ooh,
well.
okay.
Um, so first of all, we have the sun. This one is one of my favorite cards. I'm gonna have so many favorites. It's hard to really pinpoint my favorite. But sun, I like to call this the butterfly card. So when you go from the caterpillar to the butterfly, it's a whole thing. No one really talks about the transitional process that happens inside the cocoon, but that's basically when you're becoming a gooey mess because you're turning into a completely different creature. It's a whole thing, and it's not easy. And so the sun, it speaks to the part where you finally get to come out of that cocoon after all of that grueling work of transformation. Now you get to show off your wings and show up as, okay, this is me. This is the new me. Watch out, world. And that can be daunting too, because there's also that fear of, well, will I be accepted?
Mm.
People know me as the caterpillar. Will they like my wings? Should I hide them maybe at first before I really show up as this new self? And so the sun is all about learning how to lean into this new you. You worked really hard to connect with this part of you, this version of you. Don't be afraid to show up in that, in your largest capacity, with those beautiful wings showing off to the world. You might scare off some of those people that are like, where'd the caterpillar go? But things that are really meant to support you they will just surround you with love and support. So with the sun present, this is like the epiphany of authenticity. It's saying that you're really learning how to connect with that part of you that you're searching for right now, the you underneath all the layers of who someone told you to be. So that's telling me that this purpose card that you're trying to connect with, and this journey that you're on, it's leading you right where you're supposed to be, and it's
Mm.
going to take you to a place where you're just going to be like, this is me. And it's not just about the work, it's all of it. It's you showing up every day as yourself, and then the work is just adding to it. um, and the card next to it is the Five of Wands reversed. So this one, when it's upright, speaks to conflict. It speaks to dealing with conflict. When it's reversed, it speaks to harmony. So I almost feel like this is almost speaking to your other question about conflict. It's the more you do the shadow work, the more you peel back these layers and really find yourself underneath it, the more you're going to find inner harmony and peace, because you're going to find yourself and be less worried about what other people think. It's not going to matter as much because you're in touch with you and you love who you are. And that's, the point of everything, as far as like really connecting with your authenticity. So I really feel like you're right where you're supposed to be. You're on this journey to really find your niche, to plug into that. It's going to be really, you're going to get that financial support and freedom from it once you plug into it. Right now, it's just the work of figuring out who you are underneath who the world told you to be.
Wow. It's powerful. That is a powerful message. Oh,
Yes, I love
thank you. Thank you for doing that for me. And
it. Well,
I really feel good about that. I feel good about all of it. Like the conflict, like even right now thinking about the conflict, I don't have the heaviness that I felt when I came in here. It's the work you're doing, I feel like that's what it's for. It's to help people. This has been like you've been like guiding,
mhm.
and wow, thank you. It meant a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the platform, the opportunity to demonstrate and offer it for you.
Absolutely. And thanks for sharing it with my audience. And let's tell them how they can reach out to you and tell them about your offer.
Yeah, so you can reach me at journeythroughtarot.com. I have a couple different offerings just as far as like the services I offer. You can do an email reading, like I even previously mentioned. That one's probably one of the best ones if you don't want to talk to me. Like if you don't want to directly interact with me. I know some people either don't have the time or maybe they're a little afraid to like reach out. So you can do it that way. Ask a question through email, and I'll send you a picture of the cards drawn and a pre-recorded personalized recording for you of the reading. Or you can work with me directly, and those are these one-on-one sessions I offer, 15-minute, 30-minute, and hour sessions. So depending on how many questions you have and how deep you want to go. And then also for the listeners, if you use the code word journey at checkout for either the email readings or the one-on-one sessions, so it's code word journey, all caps, and that'll give you a 20% discount at checkout.
Terrific. Are you on social media?
Yes, mainly Instagram. I am on Facebook and TikTok, but I'm not like actively on those. But Instagram, I'm actively on, and that's at the handle Journey Through Tarot as well.
Okay. Well, guys, I had a wonderful time with Sarah getting this intuitive tarot reading. I think it's really something special, and I hope that you guys will reach out and have one of your own. And let me know if you do, because I want to hear how it went for you. Thank you so much for being on the show and for offering your gifts to the world. I much appreciate it.
Thank you again for having me. It was a pleasure.
That concludes today's episode. It is my hope that you found benefit in listening to today's guest and gained a greater appreciation for the guidance of intuition in each of us. If you haven't already, please make sure to follow us on social media under Dr. Williams Podcast. Look within, trust your intuition, and allow yourself to explore all the splendor that it has to offer. This is the Intuitive Wonderland.